Hi, we are doing Chapter 11 in the Modern Dental Assisting book. We are going over a section of it. So the first thing we're going to talk about is dentition periods. So with dentition periods, there are two sets of teeth. Although there are only two sets of teeth, there are three dentition periods. There are a primary, mixed, and permanent. So during your lifetime, you're going to get a primary set of teeth as a child. And when you are an adult and you lose all of those primary teeth, then you will have a permanent dentition. But in the intermediate, when you are losing or shedding those primary teeth and the adult teeth are coming in and you have a mixture of both primary and permanent teeth, that is called mixed dentition. So you may hear these called different names: primary teeth, baby teeth, or deciduous teeth. Those are all primary teeth. For adult teeth, usually they are just called adult or permanent teeth. With primary dentition, the first set of teeth that children get, it's called primary dentition, and there are 20 teeth in the primary dentition. We call them baby teeth, and you may hear them, like I said, called deciduous teeth, which is an older and less frequently used term. Some people keep their primary teeth throughout their life, and the reason for that is because an adult tooth never formed under the primary tooth to push that primary tooth out. So the baby tooth is what we call retained. So deciduous teeth that are retained can stay in an adult's mouth for the life of that person if taken care of properly. With mixed dentition, it generally occurs between the ages of 6 and 12. You'll have both primary and permanent teeth during that period, and that begins with the eruption of the first permanent tooth. Most people think that the first permanent tooth is a lower central incisor, those front teeth that you see kids lose, but generally that's not true. So typically kids get a permanent mandibular first molar, which comes in behind their baby teeth in the back. And then those front teeth fall out. But parents just don't realize it, or the kids don't realize that they've even erupted back there until they go to the dentist and they look and they see them back there. So once that permanent mandibular first molar erupts, now that you have an adult tooth in your mouth, you have mixed dentition. That period doesn't end until they lose their very last baby tooth. So they're in mixed dentition once the very first adult tooth comes in until the very last primary tooth has been lost. So the permanent dentition is that final or adult dentition. Once that last baby period has been lost, then the growth of the jawbones will slow down and eventually stop. And there's very little growth over all of the jaws during that period because puberty has passed. So we have two dental arches. We have a maxillary arch, which is the upper arch. It's part of the skull. It is not able to be moved. The teeth are set in the maxilla bone. The mandibular arch is the lower arch. It is the only movable bone in the skull, and it moves through the action of the temporomandibular joint. Occlusion is the natural contact between the maxillary and mandibular teeth in all positions. So when the mouth is closed naturally, the teeth are in occlusion. So you will hear the word occlusion a lot, and that is when the teeth are closed naturally together. quadrants. So the mouth is broken up into upper and lower for 2 sections. Then it's further divided into quadrants so that it's divided into 4 sections. We have the maxillary right, the maxillary left, mandibular left, and mandibular right to give us 4 quadrants. Each quadrant of dentition in the permanent mouth contains 8 teeth. A quadrant of primary dentition contains 5 teeth. Now, so that gives us 20 teeth in primary dentition and 32 in the adult dentition. Each tooth has its own name and number, or if it's a primary tooth, it's a letter. But they all repeat. So what I mean by that is that in that first quadrant in the maxillary right, each tooth has a different name. But in all 4 quadrants, they're all the same 1 through 8 names. So really there's 8 different teeth names, but they're the same in every quadrant. Just like in the primary dentition, there's 5 different teeth names in the upper right quadrant, but they're the same 5 names in the other 3 quadrants. And then that can also be further broken up into sections, that's when the mouth is broken up into 6 areas. So we'd have the maxillary right posterior, maxillary anterior, which is the front teeth, and the maxillary left posterior, which is the back teeth. Mandibular right posterior, mandibular anterior, and mandibular left posterior. So that's when we break the teeth up into upper and lower, and then back teeth and front teeth. So teeth are designed differently because they have different functions. So humans are omnivores, which would mean we eat both meat and plants. So we have such a various diet that we need different types of teeth for cutting, tearing, and grinding our different kinds of food. So the different teeth that we have are incisors, canines, premolars, and molars. Incisors are single-rooted teeth with relatively sharp and thin edges. Those are the ones at the front of our mouth that you see when we smile, those 4 front teeth on the top and 4 on the bottom. They're designed to cut food without the application of heavy force. So like if you were biting into an apple or a sandwich, the tongue side or the lingual surface of the incisor is shaped like a shovel to help guide food into the mouth. So if you take your tongue and you run it across the inside or the tongue side of your top teeth or your bottom teeth, you can kind of feel that they're scoop shaped or shovel shaped because it helps to guide the food into the mouth. The canine teeth, also known as cuspids, which is an older term, they're located in the corners of the arch, and they're known as the cornerstone of the dental arch. They are the longest rooted teeth in the mouth. The canines are designed for cutting and tearing food. They have the longest roots, and they're usually the last to be lost. They give like definition to our mouth. So if those canines are lost, that's when you kind of see people's mouths kind of caving in a little bit and they lose the structure to their face. And that's because those long, strong-rooted canines are gone. Because of its long, sturdy root, it's, like I said, referred to as the cornerstone of the dental arch. So we try to keep those at all costs. Premolars. So premolars, also known as bicuspids, because they're a cross between canines and molars, there are 4 maxillary and 4 mandibular premolars. They have a pointed buccal cusp to hold the food while the lingual cusp grinds it. They're not as long as canines, but they have a more broader surface made for chewing. So they are a posterior tooth, where incisors and canines are anterior teeth, which means front teeth. Premolars and molars are posterior teeth, which means back teeth. So molars, another posterior tooth, are much larger than premolars and usually have 4 or more cusps. So like those tiny little points on the top of the flat edge. The function of the 12 molars is to chew or grind food. They have more cusps than our other teeth do. Maxillary and mandibular molars differ greatly from each other in size, shape, and numbers of cusps and roots. Typically, the maxillary or top molars have more roots on them. And it's said they believe that they have more roots on them because they're hanging out on top and they need that to hold on to the mouth for gravity. So 3 or more roots usually on top, 2 wide prominent roots on the bottom, and that will help you to distinguish your x-rays if it is a top molar in the x-ray or a bottom. If it has 2 wide prominent roots, it's usually a lower molar. If it has 3 or more roots, it's usually a top molar. So we're going to look at, no, we're not going to go to tooth surfaces. We are going to stop there. Oh, no, we are going to go to tooth surfaces. Sorry about that. Okay, tooth surfaces. Each tooth has 5 surfaces. Facial, which means toward the face. These are only on anterior teeth. So canines and incisors have a facial surface. It's that part that touches your lip. Lingual is the back side of any of the teeth. It's the tongue side of the tooth. Incisal is on anterior teeth only, so canines and incisors, that sharp edge that you would bite into a Snickers with. Occlusal, only on posterior teeth, so only premolars and molars. That is that flat surface that you chew your sandwiches or your steaks with. Mesial, the front part of the tooth, like in between the teeth where you would floss, the part that's towards the midline or the front side of the tooth is the mesial. Distal is the back side of the tooth. When you put your floss in, it's the part that's more towards the back of your mouth, is the distal side of the tooth, or the furthest away from the midline. We're not going to go over these. All right, so that is it. We are all done with this chapter. Thank you and have a lovely day.